This is a super professional podcast production, whatever. We're getting glossy titles and all of that kind of stuff. Oh well, it's live and it's on our YouTube channel. You want to watch it, you get what you get.
We all thought we were already live. JD already used all his best stuff.
Yeah. Oh well.
He's looking really flustered now. I mean,
maybe not even 2 minutes in. Not even 2 minutes.
And yeah, it's just terrible. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I really messed up on that one.
And that concludes our points on absolutely everything. Great show, guys. Woo! Okay. Anyway, back to.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, when you look at the VA, when you look at the IRS targeting, when you look at Fast and Furious, when you look at Benghazi, when you look at Bergdahl, and that's very racial because he is incredibly white.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, when you look at all those, you see an administration that doesn't love America. They don't want us to win. They don't want us to win on anything. They don't want us to win economically. They don't want us to win with liberty and freedom. They don't want us to win, overseas. They don't want us to win in foreign policy. They don't want us to win in anything. They're never rooting for us, ever. I mean, I've never had an administration, even like Carter and Clinton and these, that totally didn't represent America at all. It's incredible.
I don't know
this is something that we've been talking about this on our side. We've talked about it and we've accused them of this for the last 6 years, and we've been called crazy and racist, of course, and whatever. But at this point, I don't see how anyone denies it. Now, there's 20% of the population that will deny it, and most of them are on the internet, and most of them follow us and, comment on our posts because they are true blood liberals. But I just don't see how a rational thinking, open-minded human being can deny the truth of what Angie just said.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you look at, I was talking to Corey yesterday, even when you look at things like looking back at the Gulf oil crisis, you have the spill. It's caused by a company that heavily supported Obama, BP. So his buddies caused this disaster in the Gulf. What is his response? Follow me here. It's very quick. His response is he shuts down all of their American competitors in the Gulf who did nothing, and then he sends $2 billion to Brazil to drill even deeper in water and helps them drill for oil. This guy is never rooting for America.
Right.
It's incredible. I mean, it's the anti-American president. And you know what? And the party who supports him.
But do you think that sells? Do you think that you can get I don't see that getting anywhere with the voters. I mean, certainly it seems to be the case. But I mean, I don't know that you can pillory him with this.
It's too big and conspiratorial.
Yeah.
It's too big and conspiratorial. But what you can do is you can use it in peppering him.
Yes.
The problem that they have is that they have now done anti-American things in so many issues that you can pepper them on so many fronts that it really hurts them. But this latest one, cuts so deep.
Yeah.
It's actually going to be very useful politically. I hate to say that because my gosh, there are people dead over this. But that's
there's like 13 dead Americans.
And it could be more than that by the time this is through, because we did just hand over 5 top-level Taliban members back to the. I mean, it's inconceivable to some level. That's something that.
And the parts of the trade that we don't know about, because the Haqqani network is about money, and I'm guessing that they got a lot of money from the Taliban to include those 4 Taliban guys in the negotiations, because the Haqqani guys don't care about those Taliban guys. They don't. The Taliban leaders don't matter to these Haqqani guys. The only reason they would push for their release is if the Taliban's giving the Haqqanis a lot of money. And then the Haqqanis are going to get a lot of money from America somehow, because that's the only reason they would do it. And like the 5th guy, oddly enough. And I was listening to Brad Thor on the radio yesterday. So it's all supposition and accusations and conspiracy theories, but whatever. Apparently, the Haqqani guy is that they got released is actually the boyfriend of one of the top Haqqani people back in Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan or wherever they are. So that's the Haqqani guy that got released, and the other 4 were top Taliban commanders. But the Haqqanis they're not religious fundamentalists. They don't care about these released hostages. The only reason they would get rid of their big bargaining chip, which was Bo Bergdahl, is if they got a lot of money or permanent rights to all the poppy production in Afghanistan, or whatever it was, or a promise to never be drone targets, or something big that we don't know, and we probably never will know. But the Haqqani guys were described as like the Sopranos of the mobsters of Afghanistan, not religious fundamentalists. They're the mob, and they're going for control and power and money. I mean, there's so much weird stuff going on, and how all of this happened without Karzai's involvement, or even without the Afghanistan government even being aware.
Yeah, the whole thing is just so weird, and I think one of the reasons it's resonating with so many people on both sides of the aisle is that nobody likes a traitor. Nobody likes a weasel, and that's what this kid was. He just wandered off of base and went to go help them. And Andy was also telling me that there are people from his unit who are saying that right after he disappeared, they were attacked strategically and very effectively. So they couldn't have just suddenly said, oh, hey, let's try over here. They were getting inside information. So I don't know. This whole thing is just so weird.
I mean, the one thing that we can do with these state elections and so forth is basically, when you're talking about Congress, okay, Senate, House races, is to say, do you want to vote for another person who can help be a defense attorney in Washington for this corrupt administration? Because I'll tell you one thing, a strong majority of Americans now believe this administration is corrupt.
True.
And you can say, do you want your vote to hire yet another defense attorney for all this corruption? Like I said, it's one of a million little things. I'm not talking one big strategy. I'm talking pepper with little stuff. I don't see a big strategy because he's not running.
Yeah. I'm skeptical of that line, at least here in New Jersey. I don't think that it will have the correct effect. I think that it feels like it would feed into the whole idea that the left has done a great job to propagate, that we have it out for these guys or whatever. It's by trying to draw politics into it, we're getting our own hands dirty or whatever. I don't think that it's going to be a particularly effective tool on a local level, or on if you're talking about getting state assemblymen, all that sort of things. I don't particularly see that here. But if you're talking about it in a purple state, maybe. I don't know, but I can tell you that I don't think that argument flies here in New Jersey.
I really don't think there's much messaging that we have to do connecting. I think that they are already connected to Obama. They're already joined at the hip. I think the only messaging I would do is not to allow them to break that connection when they try. But I don't think we have to run ads and stuff. You're Obama sympathizer. I'm just talking about peppering them on talk shows and things like that, and and stuff like that. As a big strategy, would I make that the big strategy? Absolutely not. I wouldn't even know what would work in New Jersey. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're going to see in a few minutes if we can figure that out. The race is coming to a close. Lonergan lost, by the way. Thomas MacArthur.
Oh, really?
Won pretty big in CD3. But getting back to how we're messaging this Bergdahl thing, I do think that already we heard some good stuff. We've talked about some Rand Paul messaging that wasn't so good. But today we had some very interesting Rand Paul messaging that was pretty good, I think, at least, when it comes to appealing to more on our side, the harder core Republicans, or that he doesn't already have, but even to the middle to some extent, saying that if he were president, that right now there would be a drone so far up the butts of these 5 terrorists that we released, this thing wouldn't be an issue. So I don't know. I think that was really good messaging from him, that he was being aggressive on that front, saying that, he's only against...
Because he's anti-drone guy, but what he's just proven is that he is reasonable, proper usage of drone guy.
Exactly, which makes him seem like the adult in the room. So that's a good bit of messaging that I thought came out of this Bergdahl thing. Maybe that's just me.
I'm wondering if the way to capitalize on the absolute understanding that we now have to have of Obama and his administration as being anti-American. I mean, I assumed that they were, at best, America is no better than any other country, and I'm now beginning to think that it seems that they take delight in making us suffer comparatively to other countries. And I think there are a lot of people that just sort of have that gut feeling. And maybe the answer from a messaging standpoint is we take our knowledge of that situation and our knowledge of that public feeling out there, and we don't mention it, we don't hammer it, we don't express it, we express its counter. And we flag wave, we have our guys emphasize their pro-American growth and the superiority of America, and America has always been and needs to continue to be, and get it back as far, morning in America kind of stuff. And I think we emphasize the contrast, and by saying we are pro-America, we're not saying he's anti-America, but we're not saying that.
Well, I mean, no, I totally agree. Look, the bottom line is this. He has become an anchor on them. We don't have to keep pointing at the anchor. Well,
although we always refer to them as Obama Democrats.
Well, sure.
And it's always Obamacare.
They're Obamacrats, of course.
Right.
But what I mean is, especially with this latest one, he is now an anchor, and they are tied to it. And I think it's going to hurt them. But I like what you're saying because, okay, the best response to this is just let him be the anchor, because this one he's not going to dodge. This is nighttime talk shows are going to have a field day. We're not going to have to lift a finger. But what we can do is, like you're saying, okay, what a great opportunity now to come forward with our positive messaging of what we can do with various things, including stuff like this.
And it's waving flags and standing in a wheat field and all that corny stuff.
Like a little corny right now.
Yeah.
Livestock. Don't forget livestock.
Yes. And I got my guns, and I'm the super conservative Republican American freedom lover gun nut guy. Yeah.
Didn't you win your primary race in Iowa today?
Iowa?
Yes, Iowa. I can't think of her name. The castrating pig.
That was today. She won. The one.
What?
She won.
I'm telling you, livestock.
Joni Ernst. No, and I think that she's going to win her race. I think she's going to win the. I don't know if that race is. I'm sorry. I saw that she was winning. I don't know if she's won yet, but she was heavily favored going in, and the polls that I've seen thus far have pointed to her being.
Is that Ernst?
Yes, Joni Ernst.
Okay, yeah, because it was Ernst versus. I'm looking at Ace's decision disc.
Yeah.
And it's Ernst at 34.
And she needs to get above 33 for there to not be a runoff, I believe. And it's not even a runoff. It's goes to some backwards Iowa thing that they do.
Cage match or something.
Yes, cage match.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. I want people to throw punches in the Congress. The Japanese have it right. You talk for a while, you yell for a while, and then fight. Just fight.
I always put English overspeak over those when I play them.
It just, I'm thinking, finish him!
You have offended me!
God. This just got really racist all of a sudden.
They're old movies, it's not racist.
Oh my God, and on Ace's decision desk so far, it looks like Thad Cochran is at 51% with McDaniel 47. Man, I really want Thad Cochran just to lose. I want him to lose just because he's old and needs to retire and go home.
I don't want to say anything like that. I'm trying to stay above all of this primary stuff. There are candidates I want to win, but I really don't want to beat up candidates that I didn't necessarily want to go and win in the first place. So that's just something that I've been. It sucks when you see that. It really does. I think.
Republican?
I'm sorry?
Really? What's the matter with you?
Conservative. This is what we do, man.
Yeah, that's true. I was just gonna say I really am. I'm interested to hear about the. I don't know if we're done with this segment or anything, but I really want to hear about TX Online. I'm dying to hear about it. So.
Go Fish.
Muted. You're muted.
So now this is my job. I wrote 2 articles. What more do you want?
Well, you guys were there. I would tell everyone about it, but I wasn't freaking there.
We were supposed to read those articles?
Yeah, really? What? I mean, I reshared them and shit, but I didn't know I was supposed to.
What is that? Fan show.
What?
I think that you should find a better choice of scratching implement. Is all I'm saying.
Nice. No, wow, it was the best conference that I had ever attended. The panels were, serious discussions that I thought were interesting, and not at all what you would expect or see at GOP-sponsored events, which I found interesting. I guess I'm looking at it in contrast to what the Republican Party of Texas is doing. For the first time, they're doing breakouts at convention, and they've stretched out convention so that they have a full day to deal with the platform issues.
Oh, well, that's good.
God help. But that whole breakout list is not anything like what what we saw at TXO. Some of the panels that they had, policy and legislation, what to do about influencing it, how to get that done. The First Amendment panel, which I was not going to even be in the room for.
Yeah, there were so many of those panels that I was like, I am not looking forward to this at all.
No,
and they were like awesome.
Yes, that was the second best panel of all, I thought, the First Amendment panel, because they were really talking about a consistent position of fighting for the First Amendment, fighting for free speech. Charles Cook was talking about having been defending people on both sides of the aisle and taking flack for it from our side for defending someone. And Larry O'Connor made the point that if we are going to rush to the defense of someone like Phil Robertson, shouldn't we then also be defending Alec Baldwin and not rejoicing when he loses his job over something he says? And so it was a really good. The people in the room got it. They agreed. For the most part, they really agreed with that. You could ask that same question in a Republican meeting that I've been to here, and you wouldn't get that same question, that same answer at all.
And what I thought was great was because it was a workshop and we had a little bit of the give and take with the speakers as well as with the questioners. There was the initial question of, don't you think it's great when we can take a scalp of our own? And the answer was, actually, no, it's not, and here's why.
Right.
And And so there was the opportunity for the people in the audience who didn't agree and who were more outcome-based than principle-based to really come to the understanding that supporting the First Amendment is supporting the principle, and it doesn't mean just saying that you support, that you'll fight to the death for their right to do so. It means you really do, and it means that if you don't like a gay bar, you just don't go to the gay bar. You don't promote laws to ban the gay bar from being there. You just aren't a customer of it, and if they are attacked, you defend them, because they have the right to be there just as much as you have the right to have your church there. And they really were able to convert people who may have been on the fence and who may have been the online rabble-rouser kind of leftist type. And I thought that was a really useful thing. And it was my first conference of any kind, so I don't have anything to compare it to. So to me, that's the way political conferences are supposed to be.
Well, this set the standard, and for every other one that you ever attend, you'll be measuring it against this, trust me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I didn't get much out of the reporter panel getting to scoop, but that was because that's not my forte. And then the next morning, though, they had a panel on Texas, the watchdog kind of people, Texas Public Policy Foundation, and people like that, and they basically told us, this is a desperate need for people to be watchdogging, and everyone will hate you if you do it. So, and it's going to be hard, and you get barely any help, and yeah. It was like, yeah, I'm highly motivated.
We totally need it. There's no competition. There's also no money in it. You'll probably get hated and get death threats, but it's really important work.
Yes.
Good luck.
Okay.
Yeah. Have fun with that. That's pretty
okay. But but by the same token, I read some of this stuff and I'm like, oh my God, this really does need to be exposed. And then you're like, yeah, but
And then they went into viral messaging and talked about what makes things go viral, or the best way to do that. I didn't get a whole bunch out of that one. Maybe Leslie did.
Well, that one and the shareability, those were both really more focused on getting a lot of hits and getting something out there that other people can share, which, I mean, we already know that. I think we tend to be on step 2 of that, which is the right content. And those two sections really were more focused on the structure and the action of getting something that can be shared and getting something that will go viral, and trusting yourself to just turn on the camera and speak to it, and it might go viral and you never do know, and just put yourself out there. And it wasn't very strategic about, and this is the kind of message you want to send. Their first example of shareability was Ben Howe using the example of what he had done to Mitch McConnell's ad.
Yes.
And that was it was a good, bad example, and I would have loved for them to take it to step 2, but they didn't. They just didn't take the time to it. What it was they were trying to show how you can take something that somebody else puts out there on the net, add your own personal touch, and then your message spreads. There was a Mitch McConnell and his, I don't know if it was the Republicans in general, if it was his campaign, put out a YouTube video.
B-roll.
It was really just B-roll, and there was no music behind it or anything. No, there was some weird, just generic, creepy music behind it. But it was Mitch McConnell just smiling at things and the camera moving slowly, and it was meant to be used by their PACs and stuff to add to those videos. But Ben Howe found it and turned it into clips and added horror music and all that kind of stuff to it, and really made fun of the McConnell thing. And it was very successful, and he was complimenting himself on his success at the shareability because it was picked up by Comedy Central and Chris Hayes at MSNBC, and that was the shining example of how something becomes very shareable and it's very successful. And I just leaned over to Fishy and said, how unfortunate that he wasn't making fun of a Democrat. And we all know the reason MSNBC and Comedy Central picked up on it is because he was making fun of Mitch McConnell. So that was a case where Ben Howe could have stepped up his game in that lecture and said, I did this and it was very successful because I was making fun of my own side, and we need to take the concept of making fun of something gently and, kind of mockingly, but target the other guys, not our own.
Well, and that brings up that I think that when I keep talking about the difference between the GOP and this kind of conference, is that you're not going to find that in GOP. You're not going to find some of the concepts in the discussions, because their function is to promote a set of candidates and get some people elected first and foremost. It is not to advance principles or healthy, even robust debate within the party. That's a tertiary, quaternary, I guess, priority. But at the same time, you will find on the right end of the spectrum where we've got these kind of people like Ben Howe, they are still, for a good portion, attempting to improve the pool of candidates. It's just that the tactics end up, I guess, as you said, probably could have better be targeted against somebody who's on the other side and actually a serious threat. Not that I'm saying McConnell is not, but that on a scale, I think McConnell falls somewhere closer to me than the Democrat candidate who's going to replace him. And here's why. Those guys don't run as radical leftists. They can't do it yet in this country. They run as moderate people that are reasonable, that look fine. And then when they get elected is when they go all wacky with whatever, and they justify it because by that time they've got a bunch of people invested in them.
Also, and it should be, it's also fair to say that the whole McConnelling thing happened before Bevin was revealed to be incompetent, so that helps. I mean, I think that gives a little bit more credence to the Ben Howe situation.
But I don't see that it helps Bevin directly. I think it's an indirect help. Provided that never happened, that Bevin was still a viable, reasonable candidate. Right. I don't think it helps Bevin to be chipping away at McConnell. Exactly. You're not proving Bevin a better guy. You're not making him, choosy mothers choose Bevin or something like that. It's not having that effect. It's just, I'm disgusted with McConnell. Man, all these guys, blah, blah. I think that's the destination people take.
And it really was kind of just making fun of how sad that the Republicans put this video out there thinking that it was cool, thinking that it made their guy look cool. It really made more fun of the Republican advertising machine.
Well, and it makes sense as a strategy. If that's the only way you can share video so that a related PAC that's not allowed to work with a candidate directly can pick up that footage. If that's the only way to do it, then shame on Ben Howe.
Yes, absolutely. I was not all that. It was interesting, and it was interesting to see how something that Ben just did, because I think he just did it because it was fun to make fun of something, and didn't really stop and slow down and think about the who, what, why, when, and how of what he was doing. And then it got away from him and became very viral, and he's very happy and trying to figure out how to replicate it. But I think, and kudos to that, I guess, but we need to be a little bit more intentional with our stuff.
Well, after all the viral stuff, then came the fireworks.
Yes.
The Culture is Upstream of Politics panel. And there's a great tweet, and I can't remember who did it, but it was basically Bill Whittle said culture's everything.
That's John.
Oh, X-John did it? Of course it would be, wouldn't it? So John Gabriel says that Bill Whittle said culture is everything. Matt Walsh says no. And then Kevin and
Kevin killed Noah with a trident.
Killed Noah with a trident, the other two panelists.
That was funny. It's like total summation of the...
Right, and it was the best panel, and it went a long time, longer than any other segment, because they were waiting for the next moderator to arrive. But it was a great discussion, but the essence that came out of it is that the argument is still going on. What Matt Walsh seemed to be saying, and I'm going to say it because this is what I heard, and it came up, Larry even brought it up on the panel, Larry O'Connor was moderating. He says that his producer has reminded him over and over that even if you didn't say it, if someone else heard something different, that's what happened. That's what they go away with. That's the thought that becomes the truth to them. And so what Matt had attempted to say is that pop culture is just a reflection more of the broader culture of what we are as the United States. And he was saying that the broader culture is leading pop culture, and that the reason pop culture is as destitute of value as it is because we are as destitute of value as we are. That's kind of what I was getting out of that. What people heard was, and then they were talking about conservative. Somebody asked him to define conservative, and he was talking about family and faith, and specifically the Christian faith. And he was challenged on that. Do you think that only Christians can be conservatives? And he said, well, I don't think you can be a full conservative, unless you're Christian. And it was something like that in those words. Correct me if I'm wrong, Leslie. That's as close as I can come. Is that what you heard?
What I heard was he was describing himself, that he is a Christian and conservative is a part of his Christianity. So if somebody asks him what is a conservative, for him it's a Christian, and conservative politics is a part of his Christianity. So he doesn't really separate the two, or he finds that Christianity is to him the core of conservatism. He didn't really ever get to the point where he explained all that sufficiently to where it was, and to where it would have been acceptable to any atheists, Jews, Hindus, or Muslims in the crowd. But I didn't get that he was intending to be exclusionary. I got that he was describing himself and his own experience, and just kind of leaving it at that.
Well, and I think he's very ill prepared to. He was very ill prepared to face a conference like this, for one, because what he does is, and he's an introvert guy, that is his thing. He goes in and he does this radio show. He goes into his house and he does this blog thing. He's not getting the feedback one-on-one with somebody. He's getting feedback in the terms of people who write that are mad and people who write that are happy. So he gets that kind of feedback. But he doesn't have the challenge of the one-on-one back and forth from other people in this movement. And I think as he refines that, he may get better. But his messaging...
he's very, very new to it. I mean, you look at everybody else has been in the movement for years. He's just showed up in the last month out of nowhere, effectively.
Right. Now, he's been in entertainment and radio and blogging for a long time. It's just that now he's hit in a big way.
Right.
And there was a little bit of arrogance there, because he was talking about his reader base is 18 to 29 females, the very precise people that the GOP can't reach. He was talking about having millions of hits on his website, saying different from whatever anybody else was saying about a particular subject. I don't remember what. And when they went into violence in video games, he had to walk back from from one of the comments, his ultimate comment was, I'm not saying it's the cause. I'm saying with this much evidence, they can't be unrelated. That's the way he put it. So he walked back from appearing. Everything he would say, though, and this is the thing that I took away more than anything that he did say, everything he would say is the kind of thing that you hear regular, everyday Republican, conservative people saying that they believe, which is, you know, that's their viewpoint, whatever. But it's all geared toward that, and I go back to that self-indulgent piece I wrote. I'm going to say what I'm going to say because I'm right, and I don't apologize for anything I say. And that is fine. If that's your personal life and your personal opinion and that's what you're going to do, you want to be the kind of person who doesn't give a crap what anybody else thinks, that's great for your personal life. But if your goal is to deal with the electoral side of politics, it doesn't work. You can go and tell everybody, screw you all you want to. It's not going to win.
Well, and as he said, and this has sort of turned into the Matt Walsh discussion hour, which is fine because he's a fascinating person, and it was an interesting contrast against the virality and shareability perspective, because Matt Walsh's shareability numbers are so high, and it's not a simple meme. It's not a make funny video. So I think what we really should be learning and seeing from this is there is room and need for the quick hit memes with a little bit of humor and interest, and there's room and need for sarcastic tweets and little videos, but there is also room, need, and hunger for a longer form article that is a think piece that challenges you on your core principles. And Matt really never talks about electoral politics. He talks about real people and their issues, and it's very, very popular, and people will actually read a very long article that doesn't have pictures and doesn't have so many bullet points. So, yeah, he has a right to be a little bit arrogant because he's coming there with a very different product than what everybody else has been talking about, and his product is every bit as successful for him.
Well, but I think what he's doing there is he is reaching and appealing to a lot of people who already think it, but he's the guy who says it.
Correct.
And that's, again, that's fine. But when we're talking about pop culture, a panel on pop culture, and how culture is upstream of politics, the eventual assumption you're going to make watching the panel is that you are probably doing better to know something about the pop culture so that you understand the people that you're trying to reach electorally downstream from the pop culture. If you're going to change things in the country, you do have to change the culture. And then that culture has to inform them about how to vote and how to deal with things. And what we're seeing is, I don't know that you could call Matt having a lot of converts on his side, but confirmation of what people think. And that's, again, fine, but that's different actually, from the political discussion.
That's actually very powerful because since he is, and he's talking, you know, some core culture rather than pop culture, and it all mixes together and feeds each other and informs itself. You know, pop culture influences core culture, and core culture creates pop culture. I mean, you can't have one without the other. You don't need one without the other. And it's not an either Matt or the other guy's kind of situation. It's they are both very influential and both very important. But what I think Matt does by having such an immense amount of popularity with the fact that he's writing articles that are, oh my gosh, I was thinking that, but never really would have had the courage to say it out loud. And then here's this other guy who says it out loud, and there are millions of others who think the same thing. That actually is it's preaching to the choir, but it's helping your warriors know they're not alone. And it's helping your warriors know there are other warriors out there. because our opponent divides and conquers, and our opponent, with their pop culture and with the massive popularity of the shallowness and the vapidness of pop culture, makes each one of us think, am I the only one who thinks that you should get married before you have your children? Because all of these stars have been dating for 7 years, and they start having their kids, and it never really occurs to them to get married. My husband and I must be freaks, because we waited till after we got married to have sex, and then we had children a year later, and we've had 5 children, and we love all 5 of them, and we'd have 5 more. We must be freaks. Well, then along here comes this Matt Walsh blog, and people are seeing, so actually maybe there are more of us than I thought, and there's power in that. And now I'm going to have the courage to talk about this at my knitting circle and at my soccer game while I'm waiting for the kids. And it kind of, I think, allows people to take some of these thoughts, formulate them a little bit more clearly, because by reading one of his articles, you may have agreed with his headline, and then you read the article and you kind of understand now why you agree. He kind of gives you a little structure to it, and you can then take that thought that you had yourself, and he's kind of helping you understand why you thought that way and giving you the strength to go out and take the message forward, which is exactly preaching to the choir and teaching you that you're not singing by yourself, and go out and stand on the street corner and sing too, because, raise your voice in song. That's what it is, but it's necessary, I think.
I don't know that I agree with that assessment, but I'm not going to prolong the debate over Matt Walsh. My main concern has always been, how do we win? And even if, and I've said it all weekend and I've said it ever since, even if the 40% to 20% conservative liberal dynamic is what's going on in the country, even if we outnumber them 2-1, they work. And if conservatives don't do things, they don't take that bit of whatever affirmation they got from Matt Walsh, or that challenge that they got from another panelist, and do things with it that are actually moving electorally, moving things culturally, whatever, then it doesn't matter, because we're still going to be outnumbered even if we outnumber them. The whole point around the Glenn Beck 9/12 thing, we surround them, was based on that 40-20 dynamic, that there are more conservatives than than liberals. But they're not doing things. I mean, they talked about in the meetings armchair warriors. They talked about people who are keyboard activists, and that's the extent. And they said that is not enough anymore. You must be going into communities, and that's everything from your own neighborhood all the way out to other constituencies that don't look like you. Because if we're not prevalent, if we're not at those places talking about issues, talking about those sort of things, it doesn't matter, because the other guys have a good ground game, and we're always going to be this majority of people ruled by a minority of fools who happen to be better organized.
All right, can I jump in with a question real quick?
Do it.
So I am just an armchair person because I live in Utah, and everyone here votes Republican. Everyone I know votes Republican. So what can I really do as far as getting out and doing things? I mean, I try on social media because that way I have contacts that aren't.
Well, and there's no denigrating that. There's no denigrating being the armchair warrior if that is the best use of your abilities. It doesn't really help if you go door to door in Utah to get people to vote for Republicans, because that's sort of already happened. The point is to find the places where there are needs, and phone banking instead for a candidate in another state would be the kind of strategy that you would use. Texas being red for so long, that's what people felt comfortable doing. They could go, and lots of activist friends I know went to other states in 2010 and worked there instead of trying to do anything at home. You can talk about the wisdom of doing that or not, given where we are now in Texas 4 years later, but it was a valid exercise at the time. But the point was that if your entire thing is arguing with people on Twitter, if your entire thing is, picking up some meme somebody did on Facebook and just sharing it, you're doing something, absolutely, and it does help, but it's not enough.
Yeah, but I think, too, going off of that, you have to kind of bloom where you're planted, and you can only do what you can do. My pet peeve are people who have the opportunity to do something, such as attend caucus and choose a good candidate for the primary, but yet they can't be bothered because their favorite TV show is on or whatever, and then they complain about who gets elected through the primary process. Well, why don't we have any good candidates? It's like, I think I may have told you this, but when the whole Scott Walker fiasco was going on between him and the teachers' unions, we put together a group of people, gave them talking points, and we went out and we posted those talking points on Wisconsin blogs, newspapers, and other websites. And we were able to engage outside of our circle, our normal circle, and I think we made some big differences, and we started to change some minds there. So you just have to be creative and think outside the box sometimes.
Well, and I come back to each person has to figure out what role they play in this war. There are the people who are the frontline warriors. There are the people who are the logistics managers. There are the people who are, because the people who work at AFP and plan the parties, and plan the Kayanne, isn't it Kayanne, redhead? The girl who planned the whole
Kimberly.
AFP online, Kimberly. Kayanne is somebody else. But Kimberly, she does the planning. That would be a logistics person, and she's very good at that. So she's expending her effort in doing that rather than promoting an individual candidate or block walking or doing voter registration or putting out videos or whatever. So she's figured out what her position is and is doing that. And Mike Hassan is running all of AFP Texas and doing his thing. And Kurt is writing books and doing his tweets and writing articles and doing public speaking and not doing voter registration or going to conferences or some of these other things. I think we each figure out what our particular role is based on the needs of our life and our family and our comfort level. I think most of us don't get out of our comfort level. I know I don't get out of my comfort level very often, and no, we don't have enough of the actual types of activists that the left has, and it's because when I was in the community outreach panel, one of the things that really occurred to me is that the reason the poor communities always vote Democrat is they vote for the people they know, and the people they know are the people who are in their community in the storefront running the Workforce Jobs Commission. They're running the Acorn storefront that you walk in and they'll help you sign up for your Obama phone and your other benefits and all of these other things, because the left has always been very good at figuring out a government-funded program. They'll apply for the grant, they'll open a storefront in the poor community, and they will use the government money and open these little community organizing groups on taxpayer dollars, and they will push their Democrat message, either through formal government organizations or NGOs or whatever they are. And we have a tendency to simply surrender all of that business. I mean, how many times have I seen some big legislation comes out and it's got a $100 million grant for planting trees, and we absolutely immediately assume that that is a liberal money laundering organization, and it is, and it will be, but we never even try for that. Why couldn't we make that be a Republican tree growing organization? And we set up an office in Harlem that helps people find jobs or helps people get skills rather than signing up for government programs and being dependent upon the government teat. We are, with our storefront, we're the place they come to and help them sign up for our other programs. I mean,
right, and that is what we should be doing.
And then we're the guy they know who is running for office, or we're the guy they know who recommends the Republicans that they should vote for.
Right, and we should be doing this, and we have tons of resources and rich people on our side, but what they're doing is backing candidates.
Right.
And that brings up the Colorado model, because I was thinking about this earlier today. When we were at the AFP TX Online, I looked around the room at people that I knew locally.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a few. There were some I knew from the blogosphere, and some I knew from just Facebook, and there were some I knew from politics, from the GOP, end of the spectrum. People who had actually been precinct chairs, been involved in campaigns, that sort of thing. There, I could probably count on two hands the number of people in the room who were activist, political people who had ties to the Republican Party. There were 2 or 3 Republican candidates or office holders that were there, only one of whom actually stayed and took notes and absorbed the conference. The others were there to drop in and have themselves be seen. And with all of the folks that were there, I mean, yes, some came from out of town, but at the same time, here we have the GOP convention this week in Texas, and those people that were in that room that got these messages, that were learning all of this, they're not enough yet, obviously, to be able to make that effect on the broader party stuff. So there's not an official sort of effort toward the kind of things you're talking about, where Republicans or conservatives are going out and making a game plan within the party or without the party to do that. And there's not the coordination between groups like AFP and the party and people with money and folks that are activists. And that is what Colorado did. They put all those people into a room and meshed them together and came up with principles and much as you can call them principles, but came up with things that they were going to do and strategies to do them, and they all were working together so that the bloggers were helping the candidates, were helping the party, were helping the activists. It was all this one mesh, and it wasn't an organized effort completely focused, but there was a lot of coordination going on, and we just don't see that on our side anywhere.
And they cross-pollinate. You have the Center for American Progress and all of the Soros and Tides organizations, and there's a million different companies that are related and tied and via a mesh net to all of those people and the celebrity donors, and then it all comes down to, the storefront in the poor neighborhood is, some people from Tides and some people from CAP and some people from Soros, and it's 12 different companies, and they're all advising the people, and it doesn't really and then and they're related to bloggers and their advertising dollars and candidates. And you're right, it's all connected in barely legal, doubtfully ethical fashion, but highly effective.
Well, but a lot of that is because they're all one team. They're focused on winning at any cost. They don't care who the end game is.
Right.
They want to win. They just want to have D's in every single position at every single level.
Mm-hmm.
Are too busy arguing over sets of principles and what my guy did to your guy last time, and my grandma hated your grandma 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, so I could never vote for you. And we have to get over the pettiness. We have to start looking at the bigger picture, and until we do that, we're never going to be effective, And if we're focusing on promoting ourselves instead of our message, then we've lost before we've even begun.
Everybody on our side is selling themselves and their group rather than the movement.
Yes.
We're seeing it all the time.
Well, and that is, of course, one of the things I wanted to bring up that did happen that was really good. And I've mentioned it, to Corey and to JD. But Leslie took a picture of Kurt Schlichter and me together, and we were talking about him just last week on these calls. And I was explaining that to him. I was explaining how he was great food for discussion over tactics, and she went and wrote a post about it on the Conservative Union site, kind of expanding on that, about go to boot camp, learn from the experts. And we were talking to him about that, and he volunteered. He asked to join us one week on one of these calls. And I'm like, who does that? But he was interested in what we were talking about, what we were having to say, the kind of strategy that discussions and talks that we've been having all this time. And for Kurt Schlichter to invite himself over, all of this, that to me was so cool. And what was neat about it is that after we told him that, he said, oh, you've got to read my column on Monday because it's just about this very thing. And so we had already had the discussion Wednesday. Yeah. We had the discussion Wednesday about the same stuff he was writing, but we hadn't seen it yet. We were so far on the same page that when he wrote that on and we shared it, he had said, he knew who I was because every platform he was on with his columns, I was there. There it was. And he could see me sharing everything he did. And that made an impression. He definitely remembers. And so when today I shared Leslie's piece, dude retweeted it immediately.
Mm-hmm. And he followed the CU organization Twitter feed. And of course, he reshared it when the website was down, so that was helpful. But so I had to be web admin today in addition to everything else.
But that was really neat. We made an interesting connection there.
Yeah, it was.
And it was, the offer of cooperation and help and that sort of thing. And just interested in having, seeing more of what we're doing. And so we've got his attention in terms of, being able to bounce things off of him and maybe get some ideas in front of people. That's been a struggle for us, but that brings me back to this, that our mission from the beginning, ever since all of us started working together, has been to promote each other.
Right.
And that's not typical in the movement.
No.
No, you guys are a breath of fresh air.
Well, I wonder, is it because we just don't do it, and that people would be more open to it if they would reciprocate with us if we started sharing them? I mean,
I don't find that.
The local people, I followed them on Twitter and they followed me back, and I think Corey Crow has already reshared something. And he's one of the local Texas guys who suffers in obscurity dealing with really deep Texas issues, and his blog is fascinating, and I think there are a lot of people out there who maybe they are socially awkward online activists, and they just don't know how to make friends and influence people, and they may be confused into thinking that it's a zero-sum game. It's really weird. We understand economics, that the free market is a rising tide lifts all boats, but then when it comes to our own personal, my blog, my group, if I promote yours, that costs me money, so I can't do that. Well, wrong.
If I may.
Yeah.
One thing I've really noticed is, and once again, the former Democrat kind of talking here. On the Democrat side of the aisle, you don't see people rising quickly from obscurity to success in pockets all over the place. Okay? On the right side of the aisle, you do. And because we're such individualists over here, and what I mean is this: you can have this Tea Party leader, that Patriot leader, this Republican leader, that whatever. People can get a good amount of success in their pocket of conservatism and rise up to a certain level and enjoy that notoriety and success and sometimes that financial.
Michelle Malkin.
Yeah. Well, you know, and there would be Michelle Malkin and there'd be so many others. That really doesn't happen much on the left. On the left, you rise up through the troops in government or in their activist things, but you don't, you know, who do you really know who's working at MoveOn.org? I mean, you really don't. You don't know the names. On our side of the aisle, people very quickly become little kings of their little sections. We are Europe, okay, and everybody's got their little Latvia or Estonia or whatever place where they run, whereas the other side is one big, it's all for one, like Corey was basically saying earlier. And on our side, they can experience that kind of quick success, and they don't want to let it go, and so they stopped. They don't want to support each other. See what I'm saying? Because it's not all toward one big game.
And it's related to our tendency to want to promote any non-idiot politician to, he should run for president, because we are very king-oriented, leader-oriented. Are you my mother? You're going to be the star. Individual personalities rather than the collective group success. And that's the difference of conservatism versus, yeah, we're individual, and we have to figure out a way to succeed given that tendency, because we're certainly not going to change that.
Well, at the same time, what we're falling victim to is that anybody who pops their head up on our side becomes a target. And
true, because he's not conservative enough. And
well, yeah, from our side and from the other side.
He's not perfect.
Right, and so a lot of people on our side would love to be in that position because, again, their success insulates them from having to work with, harder concepts. They can say what they want to say. They can say it as boldly as they want to, and it doesn't matter what it's doing to anybody else because they're the individual.
Right.
I think a real big thing, too, is on the left, the vast majority of the money, not just for you, but for your supporters, comes through government. And so you are all together working together to make that bigger and to make that and to empower that to basically rob other people for your benefit. On the right, you're trying to succeed in the private sector. And so when you do succeed in the private sector and your group and you and your supporters get what they want through your business, through your political activism group, whatever, there's a certain level of satisfaction and territorialism that occurs. On the left, that doesn't occur, not nearly in that way, because they can only get what they want if they all come together and make government bigger. On our side, you can get what you want through succeeding with what you do.
Right. I came up with the idea to call it Tea Party Express, and I contacted these people and got them to pay me money because they were investing in me and my vision and my organization, and they weren't investing so much in the whole concept. And so Tea Party Express am far better than Tea Party Nation.
Right. Right. Well, and I think going back to your original question of how do you find other people who will work with you and cross-promote, I mean, in this case, with our gathering, it was kind of luck.
We asked.
Yeah, we asked. We got to know one another. We found out that we had similar goals. I'm sure there are more people out there like that. I mean,
yeah,
we've been able to build some great relationships with groups out here. They're not necessarily interested in something like this, but, I'm starting to see a lot more cross-promotion.
Oh, yeah.
There were people who were emailing Andy's talk last week, and I didn't even know about it until today. I opened up an email this morning. I'm like, oh, they just promoted us, and I didn't even thank them because I didn't know about it. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. But it's just a matter of building relationships and cheerleading for each other.
Well, that was something that we got to this weekend. There were a lot of people who were obscure bloggers that don't really get a lot of hits or anything, and they don't get a lot of traffic or whatever. Or if you're like Chad Kent, who's Mr. Constitution, he's written a book and has ties to the Blaze, but they're not they're not doing any promotion of him quite yet.
Right, he was the photographer of the place.
Yes, he was just doing photography. They got him to do photography, which is
great. And then
great.
the next day his article is published on The Blaze, and you're like, wait, what? That was the photographer. He was the servant boy. I don't understand.
But I mean, he contacted me because I talked to him a long time about this at the event, and I said, when you have stuff to share, you need to give it to me because we'll do that. And he's got a great perspective. He's not about the politics. This isn't his bag either, but he's the guy who's going to help us with teaching people how to talk about constitutional concepts in an easy way. And that's big. And so the minute he contacted me, in 5 minutes I had that shared, in all the places that I normally would share. And I don't know what his traffic was like, but we sure drove a good portion of it for him. And he's extremely grateful, and we'll be able to, build that relationship. And some of the new bloggers, if we start picking up their pieces and looking at the folks who've been at that conference and that we got to see face to face, like Corey or Corey Crow and some of the other people that were there, I think we'll be able to increase the reputation that we have for doing that. Now, does that mean people are going to reciprocate? I don't know, but we sure make that part of our culture, and maybe that spreads. I don't know.
And the main thing is, these are sources for us to learn from and that will improve us, and by sharing their stuff, we're helping to teach other people. So even if they never reciprocate, we've still benefited from, because there are people out there who are doing good work that we don't know about, and we had a chance to discover a few of them. So, I mean, I see it as being all good anyway. If they start reciprocating, hey, awesome, that's just a bonus.
I just want the culture to change to be more cooperative, and I want us to be, setting that standard. And people may or may not jump along with that, but that's the reputation that I covet for us.
Okay, everybody, kumbaya.
Well, if I may, and Corey can tell you this, because a lot of what we've been doing when I go out and speak is I talk about uniting the right and this kind of stuff. And early on, when I was pushing that, I would get together with this or that leader and of this or that group and talk about, I want to unite the right. Here's how I want to unite the right. Here's how I want us. They would constantly look at me and say, how are you going to, basically ask me, how are you going to promote yourself? It's just kind of like, it was a totally different universe to them. They could not even understand the concept of wanting to unite and promote all of them and have them work together successfully. Well, what I've noticed, though, is more and more and more, especially in the last 3 or 4 or 5 speaking engagements, the crowd, the troops, are getting psyched. And I get mobbed at the end by people, and I mean mobbed. It's just like, my wife loses me. She has to pick things up and be IT person and all this.
I'm the roadie.
Well,
you do make her walk 3 paces behind, right?
10, but but yeah. Well, but honey, I mean, you can tell them. I mean, how are people responding to this? I mean.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just seeing so many people get excited, and they're saying, "Hey, can we work together?" For instance, we had a district captain yell across the room at me after Andy was done talking. She goes, "Corey, I need to talk to you." And, hey, I'm not leaving, don't worry. And so she wanted Andy to come and talk to her precinct leaders. We've had other people who have gone out and liked our Facebook page who have been sharing things and talking about it. Like the day after, last Thursday, I opened up Facebook on the way to work, and I was like, oh, that person was there. She's going off about choice. There was a 4-paragraph article on her Facebook page all about choice versus control, and people were sharing it. And our county chair actually messaged me and said, looks like the presentation went really well last night. Lots of people are talking about it. And so, sorry, I just lost my train of thought because I was looking at what Andy was writing. Wow, totally derailed there. Sorry.
But, well, here's the thing, guys. I mean, I'm not you know what our message is. Our message is pretty much the same as yours. We all have the same message. This is nothing new, and I go and talk this stuff. But what I mean is this. unity, working together, succeeding together, uniting, is selling.
Yeah.
These people thought it would never sell. They thought all you could sell is your thing, your book. Andy, you got to write a book. I was told that so many, and they never thought unifying all the others for their success could possibly sell. It's selling. Mm-hmm. It is really selling.
And a lot of people have been asking us, how are you guys spreading outside of Colorado? And that gives us a chance to talk about you guys.
Yeah.
And they get so excited when they hear that we're doing these Google Hangouts, and they're just like, wow, that's so neat. You need to keep spreading it. And I guess one thing that I've really tried to do in setting the example, and I don't know if it's making a difference or not, but anytime I share something on Facebook, I always make sure to leave the link of who it belonged to first. I never steal things and paste them on my page, because I've had so many people, one group in particular, that used to take things off of our page and paste them onto their own, and they would never give credit for where they found it. But even with our emails, I always try to, like, if we're going to do an event or if we're going to be speaking someplace, it's always, conservatives meet up and the party of choice, or the Reagan Club invites you to a party of choice workshop. I always try to do the cross promotion, because I haven't seen other groups do that quite so much.
And that was actually one of the topics at the conference, was cite your sources. It builds your credibility, and it also allows your readers to go other places and learn other things that may be more important or more interesting to them, and it builds up your good karma, and it builds up relationships. And if you're getting good information, you're adding your own little perspective to it, or you're sharing it to your friends. Giving credit to other people not only doesn't denigrate you, it actually elevates you. And yes, Ryan, we call that Bromberging, when you steal someone's work, copy it and paste it and put it out under your own name, and deny that it was written by anyone else. There is a gentleman on Google+, Peter Bromberg, who is he's a plagiarist and also a pervert, but that doesn't have anything to do with his plagiarism. It's just you should know that, because I think everyone should. But when we've called him on his plagiarism a couple of times, he'll post this really lengthy article about something just on a Google Plus post, and all you got to do is highlight the first sentence and do a Google search for that first sentence, and you find the blog where it was originally published. And there are a couple of times where the first comment that I would post after his thing was, "Here's the link to the original article," and it's like, busted, man, busted. And yeah, and he's so weird. He'd go, "Oh, well, thanks, Leslie. I had forgotten to put that there." Okay, sure you had. And then later on, when he kept doing it and we'd call him on it, he would say, "Well, no, it's fair use." Or, "You don't know anything about copyright law. It's published on the internet, and you can," and he would start quoting the law, and like, "You know what, Bromberg? I don't care what the law is. You're acting an ass." And but it's legal. Okay, you're blocked. But then
thankfully, being a d-bag is legal. It is allowed. You can do that. You shouldn't do that, but you can.
But I am very proud that at least when I'm logged into Google, when I search Peter Bromberg as a plagiarist, it comes up with my posts about it. So that's really cool. That the top Google result on Peter Bromberg as a plagiarist. Just to share and continue the laughter, I blocked Peter Bromberg because he's also one of those creepy perv guys. Oh, hey, baby, and he's always a little bit too friendly with the women, and he's one of those hey, sweets type guys. And you're like, no, I don't think so. So I blocked him, and with Google Hangouts, if I've blocked you, even if it's a public hangout, you cannot join the hangout with someone. You can't join a hangout that's hosted by someone who's blocked you. Well, we had a weekly Conservative Union hangout that was open to anyone, and he could never join because I always ran the hangout. And I was like, oh, ha, ha. But there was one time that I actually ran the hangout as the Conservative Union, accidentally, rather than as myself. And he was able to join in, We got a screenshot of it because he joined in and he's sitting in front of his camera in his bedroom. His bed's in the background, and his mannequin is sitting there up against the wall. Not kidding. He's got a mannequin. Her name is Raven. Look at Fishy's face. And he's going to hang out like that. It's like, what the hell is the matter with you, dude? What is the matter with you?
Who keeps their mannequin out in the open? Like, my mannequin's in the closet.
He showed a picture of it today.
You should keep everything in the closet, sweetie.
Yeah, and there was a post that Peter Bromberg made a little while ago about, oh, my girlfriend came over this weekend. I had to put Raven in the closet. It's like, dude, let me repeat again. What the hell is the matter with you?
I'm sorry. Get your freak on, but get your freak on your time.
Yeah.
I don't want to know about it.
Yeah, it's just...
What is this? Why are you implying that he's getting his freak on? No, this is a normal hobby. I vouch for it 100%. He's just got you are mannequin shaming him. Stop mannequin shaming.
Mannequin shaming. Okay then.
Yeah.
I repent of my my overreaction and my privilege.
Thank
my
you.
Non-mannequin privilege.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I accept that on behalf of all mannequin
kind
out there.
Well, it's like other kin. Mannequin.
Oh yes, mannequin. Exactly. Very well. Yes, that's what it is. Wow. Nobody knows about this. Nobody has any idea what we're talking about.
Okay, look at that
Nobody
link.
has tumblers.
Look at that link, everyone.
No, I'm not going to. Thank you.
No,
anyway.
it's okay. It's
I've
a
seen
picture
enough.
it's a picture from the Hangout.
Well,
Oh wow.
You looking?
Yeah.
That's how the guy dials into a Hangout with the Conservative Union. It was like that was a screenshot taken from the Hangout because I believe it was Crew was in the Hangout and he immediately opened up a chat with me going, WTF? Question mark?
Oh my
like,
God.
oh my God, what the hell? and then my very first meme ever. That's my very first because I had to meme it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
anyway.
Okay. Totally off. So share credit because if you become known as a plagiarist, we will make fun of you for being a plagiarist, and then if you also have a mannequin fetish, we will publicize that too, because we're mean, and by we I mean me. Basically, it's just me. I'm just mean.
By the way, I just want to interrupt here for a quick election update because I'm baffled. So both of the guys that I interviewed didn't win. But it also wasn't... No, it wasn't Murray Sabrin either. It was Jeff Bell. Out of nowhere, the split was Sabrin, Goldberg, Pizzullo, all in the 20% range, and Bell had 30%.
What's Bell like? I mean...
He's an old guy. I mean,
Right, he's the guy who like didn't have a website or something, right?
He didn't have anything. Like he decided to jump into this way late. He's a carpetbagger up from Virginia. He was in the he was a Republican here who ran for Senate in the 80s. And he is in his 80s. He's like in his mid 70s. He's an old guy, and somehow, like I don't know, some combination of low turnout and voodoo, he managed to win with 30% of the vote.
Did a bunch of Democrats register as Republicans and go vote for this?
I don't think that's what happened. I honestly don't. I think it was just. Like, I honestly, I can't tell you, because every sign that I saw going into this election indicated that it was going to be a tough fight between Pizzullo and Goldberg. but now it's not. Now it's Bell. So I guess I have some phone calls and tweets and Facebook messages and things that I have to do, because none of the guys that I thought were going to be in the running are in the running anymore, and instead we have this guy.
Huh. Okay.
I don't know. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I voted for Goldberg.
Well, I think what we learn is that the New Jersey Republicans, for those few that there are, they're just some messed up people. Because Goldberg and Pizzullo, from the interviews I saw, were good guys. And
I don't know that, and I'm not gonna say that Bell isn't. I really don't know anything about him aside from the fact that he has some history in the state. I ignored him because he was also ran. You know, he got in late. He was doing nothing. There was no buzz about him. Nothing on the internet. Nothing on radio. Nothing on TV. Nothing anywhere. And he still won. So I don't know what happened. I don't know how it happened. But I'm going to try and get him to be competitive or whatever. I don't even know. It's very confusing. And I don't know. I mean, this was literally the worst possibility, because I don't know that Jeff Bell will be alive when it comes to running against Bob Menendez in 2018.
Well, that way we don't have to worry about any embarrassing, comment.
Well, I'm not. This is really not a knock on the guy. It's just that the thing that I was going into this election thinking was, we get somebody to boost their name recognition and run against Cory Booker, and try and do whatever he can in this race, which is foregone conclusion. We're not going to beat Cory Booker, and then we'll have him for 2018 to run against Menendez.
Right, it's like building the ground game.
Exactly. That was what the point was that we
and developing your farm team kind of thing, and getting people. So now the guy who is,
we'd have Brian Goldberg, who's 41, still really, really young. Get him working on that. Get Rich Pizzullo, who's in his mid-50s somewhere. Have him win and build the ground team around him. Even Sabrin is not too old, but he's got other issues that make him unelectable. But Jeff Bell.
Well, this is not to say that can't happen. Bell is probably not on the show at all, and you still have Goldberg and Pizzullo out there, and if the two of them do the work for Bell and get out there and support him, there's some attendant unity that can be built there for one or two of them to show up in 2018. So it's not a loss completely, but that is bizarre.
Yeah, it's really weird. That was the reason I wanted to bring it up. I'm sorry, because we did those interviews, and I was really excited about the chances of both of those guys. But I don't know. I'll talk to both of them and see what they have to say, and hope that they will work, if not as hard as they would have worked otherwise. But I want to make sure that we're still going to push this ball forward.
So this really you feel is a death knell? I mean, not that they were going to win, but you mean it really hurts the ground game going forward?
Yeah, because it's if it was one of those two, then they would have had their own thing that they're trying to build. It's them. It's their baby. They're trying to grow in the state of New Jersey. Whereas now that's not really the case. Now it's Jeff Bell and his team of hopefully sprier people to come through and build an organization. But I mean, it's crazy to me how this race developed and everything that happened, and how all of the focus was on CD3 and the Lonigan race, who lost. He lost to Thomas MacArthur. like everything about this primary, this Republican primary here in the state of New Jersey is like bizarro world, because I thought for sure that Lonegan was going to beat MacArthur. Going in, he had super high numbers against MacArthur. It's baffling. It's baffling to me. I don't know what is going on, and I've actually been paying attention. I mean, it is crazy to me what has happened. But I guess that means that in addition to working on this Bell thing and seeing what I can do there, Oregon. That's all I can say.
Well, maybe since we saw Lonegan do pretty well, nearly win, and then get wiped out in his second election, maybe it's better for the good guys to have not come through on this primary, and that frees them up now. They did a little. I'm trying to spin it, okay? Maybe New Jersey is the kind that if you don't win your first election, will trash. If you come close and don't win your first election, will trash you. So the guy who wins the New Jersey Senate primary now, the old guy.
Well, if that's the case, then it takes approximately 30 years to fix that, because that's exactly who Jeff Bell is. Jeff Bell ran for Senate and lost in the 80s, and now he's back.
Okay, so Lonegan will be back in 30 years.
Lonegan is too old to be back in 30 years.
Okay, so
Lonegan made his move. He built a house in Congressional District 3 in order to run in Congressional District 3. I don't think he's moving again.
Yeah.
I think he wasted an opportunity. He could have run against Frank Pallone. He could have moved there instead and would have gotten 100% of the support, because there's no one running against Pallone. I actually know the one person who's running against Pallone, and she's a libertarian. She's the vice president of the Libertarian Party of New Jersey, and she's the one who's running against Pallone, and she's going to get crushed. And you know, it's a frustrating thing, but it's New Jersey, and I understand that. So there's that.
There's just some weird stuff going on in New Jersey with Republicans. That's kind of crazy.
Was he handpicked by the heads of the party? No, Tay, that he was not handpicked by the. If you're talking about Jeff Bell, is he establishment-ish? Yeah, I think I think that's safe to say that he's an establishment kind of guy. I think he also has some libertarian leanings. I don't know a huge deal about the guy, but from what I do know, his whole reason for being in this race was basically him saying, "Oh, hey, nobody is running this year. All the people who are running are also ran, so I'm going to move back to New Jersey and see what happens. Maybe I can get something." And apparently he was right. Apparently he got what he needed to do done, and like this. And remember, this is a tight race. If any of the other candidates wasn't in the race, there might have been a different result, because of how even the distribution of votes was. This was not a blowout. This was a he won by a couple of thousand votes. This was a really, really small margin of victory for Bell, and there was a really small difference between all of these candidates. As I said before, Sabrin, Goldberg, Pizzullo, all in the mid 20s, mid to late 20s in the percentage-wise, and then Bell with 30%. It was a really close primary, and it was super low turnout. Super low turnout is all I can say. I mean,
yeah.
I
wonder what the average age of a registered Republican versus a registered Democrat is in New Jersey.
Yeah. No, there's no wondering there. It's pretty old. The average age is very, very old compared to what the average age of a Democrat is. Because again, think about Camden, think about Newark, and think about Jersey City and the other hubs in New Jersey, and it's there's a huge amount of young people that are Democrats. So, and the Republicans, if they're not dead or in Florida, they're old. So it's a very confusing situation, and it could just be that Bell won on name recognition. Oh, hey, I remember him. He ran for something in the '80s, and that's how he won, because only the old base, the old GOP base in the state of New Jersey went out to go and vote in the primary because they have a sense of civic duty still, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be it. If there wasn't anybody to excite the base, I just don't see that you're going to get much in a New Jersey Republican primary.
But that's the thing. There were people out there that were exciting. I mean, Rich, although he wasn't my guy, is the definition of what you are looking for when it comes to a base exciting to the base, red meat, rah Republican. He's that guy. That is what he does. Brian Brian, hands down, to me at least, wins every establishment vote. Like I don't see how that changed, how anyone doesn't vote for him. If you vote for Chris Christie, if you like Chris Christie, you are going to vote for Brian Goldberg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Except they didn't go out to vote for Brian Goldberg, and they didn't go out to vote for Rich Pizzullo. They went out and voted for
the other guy.
They went out and voted for nobody, but the people who voted out, who actually were motivated to go out and vote, were the guys that were heavy for Bell. I don't know. I wish I had more information, but everybody here, including the guys, the people who are semi-official political bloggers here, Matt Rooney from Save Jersey blog, and every political site that I've come across in the state of New Jersey that I've seen comment on this, are completely baffled, and I'm with them on this one because I don't know, but I am going to go and find out as much as I can about Bell and see what I can do to help.
Cool.
Yeah. I wanted to say the very first note that I made at the Texas Online Conference, and it was when Dana Lash was doing her opening remarks. She was talking about her history, her past as a young crazy liberal, and it was just you get a lot of meaning by the way somebody just tosses off a phrase, and she was just tossing off the fact that she was a young liberal and she started a politics and pop culture blog and blah 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 blah, and I was like, you know what, liberals do that. Politics and pop culture, it's all one word to them. We have political blogs, we do pop culture blogs. On the left, politics and pop culture is the same thing. And that's why they're so effective at it. They treat it all the same. She was going to start a blog. She liked politics, so she was making a politics and pop culture blog. And just the way she absolutely tossed that off as but of course that's the way things are, it's peanut butter and jelly. We need to get there on our side with that. And we're not there at all. Somebody thinks they're a little weird if they have a political blog and they also talk about TV shows or they also talk about sci-fi. We need to be bringing them all together and talking about it all at the same time, because politics is the way society organizes and controls things. Pop culture is the way society organizes and entertains itself.
That's a good point, and one of the guys that I like reading a lot is R.J. Muller, who is a very conservative Christian who has very deep interest in the pop culture, and he writes for Acculturated, which is a really interesting blog to me. I like that site a lot, and it's always got something, tying all those things together: values, culture, politics, all that. I probably need to do some more promoting of them. But that's the best example I can think of There are a few others, but that's probably the best example I could think of off the top of my head of somebody moving in the right direction. They probably need more, more like that, more that are concerned with doing all those things.
And I mean, you just look at HuffPo. They just mix it all up. They don't have even really separate sections of politics versus pop culture. They have this mishmash of articles, and some of them are about political things, and some of them are about pop culture things. And there's always politics in their pop culture stuff, and there's always a little bit of pop culture in their politics stuff, because it's all one thing to them. It's all moving their agenda and their philosophy of life. And we claim to have a philosophy of life that controls and that is our foundation for everything we do, and that our conservatism informs our family and our work and our entertainment and our politics. And yet we separate things out so much that we're not really leveraging all of these things together. And if you look at some of the most popular TV shows are very conservative. And we're not really leveraging that and saying that means that conservatism is popular. We're saying
Right.
Duck Dynasty is a very popular show because people like the Robertsons because of their beards. Well, they may actually like the fact also that it's a family in a church, that it's a family that goes to church and they struggle and they're very real, and all of the things that are conservative values. Or we'll have a blog that is really over the top about how conservatism talks to you through Duck Dynasty, and it's all, this is a conservative TV show that is also good. We have to just incorporate and just be part of the world as conservatives, and that means be conservative politically, be conservative pop culturally, be conservative in all that we are, and realize that all of these components work together.
Emily Zanotti had a great quote, and I put it in my piece at FRN, on the value about knowing about pop culture. People are so knee-jerk about nothing on TV or movies is good. There's always an element that you can use to teach. And I've been saying that probably for a year, that there's opportunities for us to take conservative bits and themes and whatever from pop culture and point out to people on our side, hey, you may not think that this show is for you, but a very rudimentary examination of this thing that happened on it can be used as a conservative talking point, or the ability to expose conservative values in pop culture. Because I think why people are turning off of pop culture is because they're not trained to look for those elements.
Right.
And that if we were pointing them out with great big giant arrows, like the way that Learn Liberty was talking about Game of Thrones, and that you really, power is a really sketchy, thing in anybody's hands, and the way people react to power. And the people who are good in Game of Thrones are reluctant to assume power. And the people who are bad are grasping for it. And the people who are good get into bad situations and they're trying to make the best decision out of all these horrible options. And the people who are bad are very expedient and they're just cutting through doing whatever the heck they want to do. That's a great place to talk about conservative values and the not trusting power in so few hands, or concentrating it among people that are jerkwads or whatever, and that you're much better when you're on your own. There's all that sort of rich material that we're not using to point out. We're not talking about it. I'm just hoping that I can get enough pop culture under my belt to be able to start doing that, because it doesn't look like anyone else in the blogosphere is interested or doing it yet.
Well, I mean, but the pop culture rejects us so much, and it's all based on one thing. They believe our side wants to impose its moral restrictions on them. Okay, they believe that we want to get 51% of the vote and make them live like us. And that is why Hollywood hates us. Okay, and I'm serious. That's why young people hate us. That's why Hollywood hates us. That's why, academia hates us.
And it's true to a degree. There that element among us.
It's true that there's that element among us, but it is not true. But like I always say, we're not even. I don't believe we are even 1% as controlling as the other side. We don't take tax dollars from people of all beliefs and they erect public schools that teach one side. I mean, we don't do anything that controlling on our side.
Just look at how much I've let all of you people talk during this hangout.
Exactly.
Talking about releasing control.
Yeah, but, I mean, none of it comes through on the tape. We're all new that. But I'm just saying that we have the element of we get pushy, they actually control. Okay? And as long as people, especially young people and people in entertainment, believe that if we could get the control, would impose our morality on them, then it doesn't matter how hip we are, how much we can relate, how much we can. I agree 1,000,000%. We need to be much more tied in and able to refer to this show and that show and how because I agree, I get a lot of great stuff from the shows. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is we've got to right up front let people know, look, these are my moral stances. I don't want my morals. I don't want all of my beliefs to be your laws, and the left does.
Right. I want to encourage and influence you. They want to mandate you.
Yeah.
I want to influence you to choose my way of life.
Right.
But because you see that my way of life makes me more successful and happier, they want to force you to do it because it'll make them rich.
Yeah.
Just a little different.
Yeah. Because I got news for you. A lot of young people don't hate morality.
Okay. No, they need it. They want it. They're looking for instruction and parenting and guidance and stuff.
They love the hedonism. They love all the experiences, but they feel so foundationless. They feel so, and it's just kind of like, but they run from morality because they feel it is forced upon them. And when you tell them, look, no, you don't understand. It is an option. All I want is the right to present the option to you. If you didn't choose it, it'd be of no value to you anyway. The other side doesn't want you to choose it because they don't care if their side is of value to you. Okay? They only care if they have you. I care if this is of value to you. And the more we show them that, I mean, I'm telling you what, young people then I say, now take a look at this morality again, you see, and because so often morality is simply this, it's what you wish you did the night before.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, been there. Done that.
Religious or whatever. But it's morality is simply life with fewer regrets. Okay?
Oh, I like that.
But we come at them with, we sound like we are wanting to force it, and that's where we lose them. And that's where we lose them in entertainment. And if in the entertainment world they were to hear more and more, no, this is an option. And by the way, a lot of people would be a lot happier if they did fewer of the things that you're advocating in every single movie. It's not so bad. All it is an option. We don't want to impose it. The other side does. We only see it as valuable for you if you choose it. The other side doesn't care if you choose it. Hence Obamacare.
Yeah, they just want you to do it.
Exactly. The other side doesn't care if you choose it. Hence public schooling versus private. The other side doesn't care if you choose it. Hence list off every single
thing. Lunches.
School lunches. Thank you. But do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, in pop culture, the situation is reversed. We are those people. That's how we are portrayed. We are portrayed as the ones who are taking the choices away, the ones who forbid dancing, the ones who are being the jerks that say no. And we don't do a very good job of
proving the lie.
Aside. Right.
Are you wanting to dance, JD?
Oh, dance. No, dance is not one of the things that I want to do right now. No.
Because, you know, the guy who we just traded 5 terrorists for was really into ballet. I think it's going to be sweeping the. It's just something to look into. I don't want to force.
Yes.
So.
You're totally.
Bo Bergdahl was really into ballet, and you know this because.
There were several articles. I mean, it's been in the news. They show him pictures of him.
He was on the cover of Ballet Maine Weekly. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you know.
To which you have a subscription, lifetime.
I practice with my mannequin.
Nice callback. There you go.
We're just friends. The mannequin and I are just friends. Corey doesn't like me.
You know, a little while ago when we were talking about, kind of expanding the concept of sharing the wealth and sharing the information, and this group here, it occurred to me, we probably should come up with a catchier name, and maybe make this a weekly public thing. I certainly don't want to spend any more time on prep than I do, which is to say I don't want to spend any time on prep at all, because I don't. But have it be the public, anybody and everybody can watch it live. We even advertise it. We have, and it's coming together or something like that, and do this more. And then we ended up talking about mannequins, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I should rethink that thought.
Not share this one.
No, but I will tell you what I think might be an interesting thing to do around it, because we do this, and this is just something else and another option to think about. We do this, and we're throwing out ideas as they come, but by the time we're done, we usually have coalesced around a few points and understood a few things that we all agree on and whatever. Those points would make a nice 5-minute, podcast points or something like that.
Mm-hmm. A little 5-minute Spreaker thing or whatever.
Yeah, some kind of recap that's out there. I got to think about that some more. But I'm just thinking that to encapsulate 2.5 hours or whatever.
Yeah, because this is.
People are not gonna.
People aren't going to watch this whole thing, but I'm almost thinking, back in the olden days, the thinkers and the writers would gather at somebody's house and they would have their weekly salon, and that's kind of what this is, isn't it? We're tossing ideas back and forth and trying to, come up with game plans and improve things for each other. I mean, this is basically a weekly salon where we just get together and we toss out ideas.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea. We should take all the videos, write summaries of them, put it on the internet, and call it salon.com.
I was really upset when they launched that site for that reason. I will tell you, because so few people know the word for what it is, what it used to be. But if you're any kind of reader of any literature set in the Victorian era or thereabouts, then you know what that used to be, and it was outrageous ideas and things that nobody had really thought about, new things brought all the time. If I'm not mistaken, even up to the point where Freud was doing his tours, he was going to places like that to talk to people about his ideas.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sort of
and Elizabeth
dynamic.
Cady Stanton is in town this week, so she's coming over to Gloria Vanderbilt's house, and they're all going to talk, and we're having our thing, and and it was, I don't even know if those people knew each other. Those are just olden time names that I know of, and Thurber and those people, they'd have their little thinky talky projects.
Well, it was good if you were a stupid, if you were a really stupid person who was also an aristocratic or a rich person. That was a good way for you to show that you had, some
culture.
Yeah, some culture, but also that you were a little edgy. It wasn't just that you were simple and stupid, but that you invited controversial people who were so witty and clever, and they could make other people laugh, and it was entertainment as well, for them.
And this, we have the opportunity to sort of do that here and with this. And if we make it right now, these things we're loading them on YouTube, and they are public for anybody who wants to go to the YouTube site, but the event itself isn't public from the beginning, and we don't have the public watching these now. We don't have the public watching them live, and we don't really have a name and a description of what it is or why anybody would want to watch it, and we don't have any kind of even casual process of inviting in other guests or bringing other people in. But we do want to do that.
If we do the summary, I vote Corey and Andy are the ones who actually do it because they're best at messaging. They do a quick little podcast, quick little video or something, just summarize the main points for 5 minutes and get that out there.
Voluntold.
Yes,
there's a few things that we could do, because I think we all have our own area of expertise, and so if we have an outline that we're going to follow, and we, try to keep it to 30 or 40 minutes, we can focus on different topics and even break down those topics into parts, and each take a turn.
It'd be kind of interesting to do 4 or 5 minute segments or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, even just like real practical things. They're always talking about social media and how we need to be better at it. Well, okay, how can I be better at Twitter? I know I can be a lot better at Twitter because I suck at Twitter. I need a lesson, Fishy.
Yeah, I don't have those recorded, but yes, have done. But back to the guest thing really quickly. I think that definitely ahead of inviting Kurt with getting him nailed down to a date, or Larry O'Connor, who we've also invited and who has accepted, depending on the timing, which that's a iffier proposition than Kurt Schlichter, actually. But those are two guys that have, interesting ties and good grasps of messaging, and from two different perspectives. But ahead of having them, we probably do want to discuss a structure around having them on. If we would work on questions one week and then the next week have them scheduled so that we'd have time, to review their work, to go and yes, we do have to talk about subject matter appropriateness with Larry.
Just to let him know, this is a PG-13 production. Just FYI.
Well, he can talk about his mannequin collection, but other than that,
yeah.
But the other stuff.
The other collections, not so much.
Now, Larry only has a mannequin collection for the ties that he wears on Fox News. He's just got them draped across. Anyway. But no, seriously, I think that having two things that I would think come out of this. Number one would be kind of a summary that's much more accessible to people, whether it's, again, a 5-minute or however you want to do it, just something that summarizes, and that everybody could record a bit, and we can just cobble them together into one thing. That would be nice. The other thing is, though, definitely having a structure around having guests, because there are people whose brains I know we'd love to pick, but we really also ought to be familiar with them, because what happens if, say, I pick somebody that nobody's heard of and that I'd like to bring on, and you don't know anything about them, you don't know what to ask. It's just going to be me and that guy and a bunch of you looking and listening. So
that would still probably fascinate me, to be honest.
Well, sure, but I mean, I'm looking more as a cohesive look. You're in the hot seat with all these people who have been talking messaging for half a year now, and we all have questions about this. And I'm sure even if it was somebody that you didn't know and they said something that struck something with you, you'd bounce off that. But I much prefer a guest coming in thinking that everybody knows who they are.
Sure.
And everybody's familiar with them.
I would think given a day or week notice, we could read a bunch of articles, figure out who they are. Like, I'd never really heard of Kurt until today when you guys mentioned it. Now I've looked him up, read a few articles, Yeah, I would think given a day or two, saying this guy's going to be there. Here are some of my favorites. Read up on him. I mean, we could be pretty prepared pretty quickly.
We could all have posters of them up behind us on our walls.
You bet.
Yes.
You bet.
Can we get like
a
a
full wall
stat?
mural.
That wouldn't be
That might freak them out.
I think Jim Garrity would be a good get. He has a book coming out. Have you heard?
That was one of the things from the conference. Every time anybody mentioned Jim, they mentioned his book, and he had it with him, and he would lift it up above his head and wave it around.
Or the word weed, because it's the weed agency.
Yeah.
So anytime anything pot-related came out, any marijuana-related, anything.
Anything. There were plenty of opportunities
And
for
by the
Jim.
way, Jim Garrity.
Weed. And Jim has a book about that, yeah.
And we actually passed up the opportunity to get a free signed book. I'm kicking myself.
Oh, well. Oh, well.
Yeah. Now I got to buy it and stuff.
But that's actually more supportive of Mr. Garrity and the industry and all that kind of stuff.
I second Ryan's request for Thomas Sowell if we can get him.
Right. Well, yeah.
I would love to get Thomas Sowell. I would love to do that. I don't know what the likelihood of that is. I don't think, even Fishy with all the pull that she has, I don't know that there's that would take a little bit of doing for that one.
Right. And I'm kind of thinking, okay, we start small. First step is to figure out what's the name of our weekly salon. What are we going to call this?
No clue, but we got to find damning pictures of all of these people. I'm just saying that'll really pave the way.
Okay, if it's a simple request doesn't work, then blackmail?
That's my first option, really. I just kind of go right to it.
I'm telling you, Photoshop in the mannequin picture.
Yeah.
There you go.
We could do this.
We take the Peter Bromberg picture and we Photoshop Garrity's face on it and say, here, Garrity, join the Hangout, or this is what we publish.
I've actually been reading. I've actually read Kurt Schlichter for a few years now. That sounds really fascinating.
He's pretty funny.
I read him on Town Hall.
He's just the nicest guy. And it's so funny because he's really nice to conservatives. Everybody that I've talked to that's ever met him, he's just a really nice guy. And he just stirs up the ire of the left so much, and his Twitter persona would make you think he's not nice at all, but he's just really nice.
Cool. Then he won't fit in. We'll eat him alive.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to warn him ahead of time. Trev, you put on your flak jacket.
Yeah. So back to the name.
Yeah, names.
The idea is that this is kind of the synthesis of 3 different groups right now, but we're thinking, bring in more bloggers and bringing the right together, like you guys are doing, Corey and Andy. Bringing the right together. Party unity, our ass. But no, wait, that's the Hillary Clinton thing, right? Pumas. Party unity, bringing the right together, kumbaya, mofos.
Can we still unite the right, or is that for something different? Because that is what we're attempting to do.
Because we are.
I don't like that personally.
Because the idea is that it's a weekly talk about messaging and direction.
Yes.
Of conservatism, and we're bringing together multiple groups to do it. How do you name that kind of weekly thing? Snarkfest, Snarknado.
That's funny.
I like that. I do like that, Snarknado. But I don't think that describes exactly what goes on here.
The snark tank. No, it really does. It's not very descriptive of what it is.
Oh, well, we know what it means.
We were just putting random words down, actually.
I just don't feel it's very snarky.
No, we are generally, there is some snark occasionally, but we're mostly trying to actually get something done.
It's synthesizing the message and the marketing and I don't know, what the hell? What do we call ourselves? Or not ourselves, but what do we call this weekly thing?
I've actually thought about that before, and any idea I might have had must have come at like 3 a.m. and was thoroughly worthless, because none of them are coming back to mind. But I have thought about that.
I don't know. I mean, we just keep on.
It's too hot for fireside chats.
It sucks. It sucks that this would be the thing that, holds us up on this. Because other than the name, we actually do stuff. I mean, that's.
Yeah, if I can have a name,
that are pretty darn good.
And you know how I feel about having anything with the label of right or conservative on it. I'm not a fan.
Not a fan, because you get nobody to come and listen. Besides,
Christian. I just.
We could just do the God, Baby Jesus, guns and.
No, do that. That would be cool.
Coordinated clinging. No, wait, no, never mind. We get. I'm thinking we.
Wow.
Bring your own mannequin.
That either goes to a real pervy place or laxatives or whatever. Yeah. Sorry. Never mind.
See, there was this alligator.
Yeah, there's the alligator. There was this alligator.
I told them my great-grandma's story about the alligator and the mailman and all.
Nice. That's
hilarious.
That's a classic.
It was hilarious.
So I've got alligators on the brain. No,
So,
but something that doesn't have
have a
any
name.
connection to what conservatism, something that's funky and different, but that makes you go, what is that? Something like that.
Okay.
So we need somebody who's actually good at marketing, is what you're saying.
But then I like names that are descriptive enough that you can figure out what the heck it is, because the really obscure names strike me as just way too cute and twee and pretentious and deceptive. Oh, it's the thinkers community. Oh, it's sensible politics. That kind of crap is like, oh, okay, you're just lying to yourselves, or it's very aspirational because you aren't thinkers and you aren't sensible. You're just a bunch of liberal blowhards.
Well, like I would think of something like the anvil. Okay, the anvil is where you improve something. It's this hard surface against which you're I would find meaning in that. Something like very simple, like the anvil, or
the forge.
The forge, yes, that's a good one too.
Foundry, which the Heritage already took.
How about something with a map, maybe? Like, an atlas or something like that, trying to kind of create a road map. The road map, I don't know.
Well, I like the idea of the forge, because with the forge you make something.
Yeah. The Temple of Doom. No, wait. Eye of Sauron. No. Anyone? No.
Shire! Welcome to the Shire!
Nice.
It's a simpler place here.
Atlas Mugged. No. God, if you make it anything at all relating to Ayn Rand, it'll be all Ron Paul insane people all the time. I'm not going to do that. I object.
Right?
No, even
Absolutely.
worse, it's gonna be the Gary Johnson guys, because as bad as the Ron Paul guys, you have to be desperate to be a Gary Johnson guy.
I actually think all Ron Paul insane guys is a pretty cool title.
The Ron Paul Insane Guys group. Yes, I like that.
Or we'll just call it Ron Paul Sucks, and we'll see.
That would market itself quite well, actually.
And our logo is just a troll.
We'll just have it Christians Against the World and have JD chair it. I just think that would really sell.
How about we just call it Flags, Eagles, and Tricorns and be really hip? No way.
Life music in the background and drum.
Yes, yes.
Coming together. I like this.
I like how we went from we're generally not snarky to all the snark all the time.
Until we say we're not snarky, then we just get snarky.
Get snarky. There we go.
There, I like it. Get snark.
Get snark. Oh boy.
So maybe this is our back of the mind homework for the next couple of days to come up with a descriptive, fun, non-pretentious, but non-stereotypical name for this weekly event that we then make be a, here's the public schedule. We invite the public, and there's the, we're the regular attendees, and people just listen to us, and and our logo is a black slide with Comic Sans font or something. I mean, it's just not. I'm not interested in artwork, but we'll put our websites on there, and our names and stuff like that.
We might be able to come up with a logo.
Speaking of homework that was in the back of people's minds, I did finish my homework that I was asked to do last week with the this is conservatism. Yeah, it's done. So if you want the video, I can send it to whoever wants the video. It's 4 seconds long.
Why don't you just play it?
Okay. Well, I have to find it first, so let me go and do that, and I will get it. Sorry.
And I didn't film a damn thing at the conference, so that was really useless, and I didn't even have my tablet with me when we were hanging with Delbert, because it would have been great to ask him what conservatism is and get him on film. I gotta get better at this, getting material for the silly little Tumblr site of This is Conservatism. And it doesn't all have to be video, because you can contribute stories and pictures and stuff like that. We need to load it up with some content before we start publicizing.
I have almost 2,000 views on YouTube. That is crazy.
No, that's cool.
I don't even know from what, but
I don't know.
No, this came out really lousy on this computer. What is up? Anyway,
it's all the Chinese bots. They love them some JD.
Yeah. Anyway, let me find the thing. Add videos to playlists. And you said that you wanted the voiceover and the logo, and that's what I did. So here you go.
Oh, let me load up my YouTube. Everybody, turn on your YouTube app.
I did. It's just.
Video is I'm sorry. Let me change the settings to make it unlisted and not private.
Corey had to run up to bed, so.
Yeah, it'll, as I said, it's 2 seconds long. So there we go. Save those changes. Let me add this here. Enter.
That works for me.
Right?
Sorry. It was what I did. It was what I didn't do it that time. I didn't hit play. But that's the thing. I animated it in Blender and did the voice recording in Audacity, and hopefully, is what you wanted. If you want like music in the background, I don't know where we can find some open source music. I'm sure I could find some open source music somewhere, put behind it or whatever. But
this gives us something to. Now we need the content.
Yeah. So.
Somebody who knows Tumblr. Does anybody know Tumblr well enough to figure out a theme that has a deal that people can see? Oh, contribute your own video or thing here, because we need. here's the stuff that we already have, and here's a button where you can click to upload or write your own contribution.
Right. I'm sure we could find that somewhere.
I'm sure that they have a theme that does that.
Yeah. I don't know because that's not something I looked into when I made my Tumblr a billion years ago. But I'm sure we could find that out and get that figured out. But
yeah. Well, T, you should record a 15, 20-second video about, this is conservatism. You show up at meetings and all of a sudden you're a candidate for state senate. That's conservative activism.
Yeah, they're still trying to figure out, how they ended up with me as Tea Party minded as I am. Not only there, but running for office.
I think maybe it's that you show up and you're there. I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah. And I just keep shocking them. It's like, she's actually doing this.
Yep. Okay, so let's see. We've got our homework. I don't think. Who was that?
Probably.
That was me.
There's something weird going on there, but stop now.
I'm just playing it over and over to Corey. Andy, why do we have to do this? This conservatism.
Andy, I need to tell you.
Me. What?
I need to tell you, my son wants to watch the smiley face video every morning. It's like we bribe him to going to bed and do all of his bedtime routine fast by letting him watch the smiley face show in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
So out of your 100 views, we're probably responsible for 50 of them.
Well, that's okay. That's the only cute ad I've ever done. I don't know what possessed me, but I'm glad I got the 3-year-old vote for
That's what matters. That's what matters.
It sure is. That's cute. Thank you.
Whoa, y'all, I just checked on the Ace of Spades decision desk about the Mississippi GOP primary.
Yeah.
Wow, it looks like it's 48.8% to 49.65%. This thing is close.
Really?
139,000 votes to 141,000 votes. McDaniel is on top, but not by much. Not by much. And it hasn't, the race has not been called yet, obviously.
Wow.
The sad thing is that McDaniel could have won the New Jersey primary 3 times.
With 141,000 votes?
Yeah, it's done. You've won by a landslide. Well, no, I'm just saying with that vote count, whatever.
Yeah, and this is Mississippi. Mississippi's population is New Jersey. You just don't have too many Republicans, do you? You don't. Not only do you not have too many, you don't have nearly enough.
No.
Not nearly enough. Okay, well, gang, I need to call it a day. Is that Andy?
Yes.
Out of nowhere, everything mutes, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And I keep on forgetting that that's what it was. Nice. Why? Don't listen to that multiple times. Don't listen to it once. Ah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Fixed it for you.
Yeah, fixed it for you.
My gosh.
I did not, for the record, play that.
You took away my voice.
This is conservatism.
I took it off the playlist.
Meanie, she took our toy away.
Wah.
I was going to actually have that replace my car horn. Use it in traffic. I think that'd be awesome.
Better than the General Lee.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
These are the projects that I get asked to do. So
it's so much fun to tease you, JD. It really, really is. Because I get the feeling.
Because of that face right there that you just did.
Exactly.
all right. Then no more camera. That's it.
And you may or may not hate me for it, but I get the feeling that you don't, and that's what matters. I mean, if you do hate me, you're hiding it really, really well. So the fact that I can tease you and you don't, and I believe that you don't hate me, that helps.
Right. So what you're saying is that you're blaming the victim. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, that was basically you're asking for it, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Basically, you're asking for it.
There is no war on women. It's the war on JD.
Guys,
right there is.
We got to head out. It's been...
Yep. Come up with a name.
Me too.
Since you guys are leaving, you have to come up with a name.
Okay.
I'll start
later,
a Google
guys.
post tomorrow and tag everyone, and then we can brainstorm names on that over the week.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Good idea. And then we can figure out, further structural things and get more professional as the days go by. I'm going to stop our live broadcast.